Joining all the way from Fez, live from Fez, Morocco. The Super Eagles began their final preparation for that last Group C encounter against Uganda, holding their pre-match press conference in Fez today. Now, head coach Éric Chelle and the captain of the side, Wilfred Ndidi, were representatives from the Nigerian camp. So they met with media at the Complex Sportive Day Fez, fielding questions on team readiness, squad fitness, and expectations ahead of the crucial clash. After observing a 24 recovery period, the Nigerian team is set to return to the pitch for the official training session later today at the Sardienne Complex. Now, Nigeria will face the Cranes of Uganda on Tuesday with kickoff scheduled for 5 p.m. local time as both sides they battle for a positive finish in the group. Joining us live from Fez is our correspondent, Udoka Njoku. Hello, Udoka. Thank you so much. At this time, I'm very certain that it seems the whole weather is favorable right now. We can't see you with your sweatshirts and your head warmers.
Thank you very much, Onyechi. The weather is cold outside, but we have the heaters in here at the media center at the Sportive, the Fez. Yes, press conference is done and dusted. And Éric Chelle, well, it's a tricky game against Uganda because we have already qualified, but there's something we need to seal top spots in Group C to move on to the next stage and also to remain in Fez. Now for Uganda, they stand a slim chance of qualifying and all they need to do is defeat the Super Eagles. So with this now, a lot of people are hoping that Éric Chelle would actually make changes in his formation and also starting lineup, resting a couple of players ahead of the round of 16. And we threw that question at him, and the best response we got from Éric Chelle was he will have his training today. He doesn't know what kind of formation he will use. He doesn't know the players that will play. Whichever player impresses him in camp later today by 5 p.m., then the player might make the selection for tomorrow's game. But one thing is guaranteed, he doesn't want to go into that game underrating the Ugandans because we know Uganda can be a banana peel to the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So we look forward to that game against Uganda. But no injury concerns. He only mentioned injuries on Victor Osimhen, and there's also Frank Onyeka and Stanley Nwabali, who had slight knocks. But he said they are good to go, they are willing to play, and he looks forward to the training today that will determine if they are good enough to go against Uganda tomorrow.
All right, we did see that picture shared by Stanley Nwabali on Snapchat, and we're a bit concerned. I'm hoping that we can have it on right now because at this time he's saying he's giving gratitude to God. And a lot of concerns were raised that what really happened. Are we going to have Stanley? This is his leg being wrapped over there. Remember that he had concerns in that game against Tunisia where he called for attention. But from you're saying the coach is saying it's a slight knock. This doesn't look like a slight knock to me, Udoka. So what response did he give exactly? Did Coach Chelle give exactly to Stanley Nwabali's condition?
Well, Éric Chelle said to us that Stanley Nwabali received a slight knock. We watched that game the other day against Tanzania, and when he considered that goal, the way he dived to save that ball, of course, he didn't get to save it. He twisted his knee and ankle, which gave us a sort of concern. Now, Éric Chelle said Nwabali is good to go. We spoke to Nwabali, who also said, yes, indeed, he had that knock, but he's strong enough and he's ready to go against Uganda. So social media would definitely say what they have to say. But we've heard from the horse's mouth, Éric Chelle has said that Stanley Nwabali is ready for tomorrow's game. Victor Osimhen also received a knock in that game, but he also said Victor Osimhen is ready for tomorrow's game alongside Frank Onyeka. But you never can tell. It's a game against Uganda. We've qualified, but to finish top, we just might see a Francis Uzoho manning the post for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. I'm sure this will not please a lot of Nigerians, but when the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
All right, getting tough there. Did Captain Wilfred Ndidi give any indication of changes or maybe tactical adjustments ahead of this final group game against Uganda?
Yeah, we also asked that question. We threw the question towards Éric Chelle, and all he told us was he would not tell us anything until later this evening when he's sure of the players that will feature in training. And we just might see a few changes here and there, but our expectation is for him to rest players like Victor Osimhen and maybe Alex Iwobi, because Nigeria has qualified already. Rest your top players ahead of the next game in the round of 16. And maybe we just might see starting berths for the likes of Akinsomiro, and there's also Paul Onwachu, Cyril Dessers. These players just might get a starting shirt against Uganda, because in as much as we're seeing that game as a not very important game, we need to win that game to finish top of Group C. So Nigeria will go all guns blazing tomorrow against Uganda. But slight changes just might happen. But we're hoping, with all sincerity, that he rests Victor Osimhen ahead of tomorrow's game.
All right, what is the feel there in Fez? You know that Nigeria are topping the group at the moment. 6 points. Fans are happy here at home. What are the fans saying ahead of this encounter over there in Fez? Udoka?
Yeah, we saw the game against Tunisia. At some point, 3-0. The stadium was buzzing, fans were buzzing, were celebrating all over the place. Then when we saw 3-1, we thought, okay, it's done and dusted. But at 3-2, there was panic in the stadium. But for the fans here in Fez, they are saying that they prefer this win against Tunisia. They prefer this performance against Tunisia better than what we saw against Tanzania. We could see a Super Eagles who are ready, who are willing to play that game. Most of the game actually happened in the first half, and the last 15 minutes of that game, it was a disappointment for the Super Eagles. But the fans are poised, looking forward to this one against Uganda and expecting nothing but 3 points from the Super Eagles of Nigeria. The fans here in Morocco, especially the Moroccan fans supporting the Super Eagles, they are all gunning for the Super Eagles, all hoping that they can get to win this one and maybe get to see a Morocco Super Eagles final.
All right, is there a possibility that we can, top up the numbers of Super Eagles supporters who are in the stadium? Yes, we heard their songs, but we understand there are only 10 members who are in the stands creating the sound, making the chair for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Are there any conversations around when they will come up in their numbers en masse to the stadium? Would it be in this game against Uganda?
Yeah, hopefully so, because we spoke to a few of the supporters club, authentic Super Eagles supporters club, and they said they're expecting more members. And it's just a shame where we have different factions of supporters club, and we can't get a full bus of the supporters here in Morocco to support the Super Eagles. I mean, if you had seen that game against Tunisia some days ago, the stadium was packed full. We had 90% of the representing or supporting Tunisia, and maybe a minor 5% supporting Super Eagles of Nigeria. Then the remaining 5 were just neutral fans. So we need to gun support for the Super Eagles. The NFF needs to send the supporters club down here. We need to make that noise. They need to be here to support the Super Eagles, because it wasn't such a good one that we saw against Tunisia. If Nigeria had not scored those goals against Tunisia, they would have rang noises in their ears, and maybe they would have lost concentration and lost that game. But with the little support we had, we were able to silence the crowd up until the last 15 minutes of that game against Tunisia. Then the crowd took over. So we need massive support for the Super Eagles of Nigeria here.
All right, I'm sure that your message will be heard loud and clear all the way from Fez, Morocco. But next time, when you come on air, when I'm anchoring this show, stay outside. I want to test something. So please stay outside. Thank you so much, Udoka Njoku, for bringing us updates all the way from Fez. We would reconnect with you in our subsequent bulletins. Of course, I know we've got more. You've got more to dish out to us.